Hello and welcome to another video on quadratics, and in this video we're going to continue our journey and we're going to look at solving quadratic equations. So we've got this nice quadratic equation here and we're going to solve it. So we're going to find out what values of x we put in here to get an answer of 0. Now our first step for solving quadratics, especially ones that look like this, are to factorize, which is what we've learnt about in the previous couple of videos. So first of all we're going to factorize this quadratic expression here. So if you cast your minds back to the previous couple of videos, in order to factorize a quadratic, we need to find two numbers that have a sum of 10 and who have a product of 24. So which two numbers multiply together to get 24 and add together to get 10? Well, my numbers are going to be 6 and 4, because 6 times 4 is 24 and 6 plus 4 is 10. So we can just factorize this expression here as x plus 6 in one bracket and x plus 4 in another bracket. So this here is exactly the same as this, and if we expand these brackets we should be left with x squared plus 10x plus 24, and obviously all of that is equal to 0, so we can just write equals 0 there. Now we've got two things being multiplied together and the answer is 0. So just have a think about how I could possibly get 0 from two things being multiplied together. So let's just write this down. So we've got something times something equals 0. Now what could these values possibly be? Well, the only way we can get 0 is if one of these is 0. If I've got 0 times something, I'm going to get 0. Or if I've got something times 0, I'm going to get 0. There's no other numbers that I can put in here to give me an answer of 0. So one of these values has to be 0. So either this is 0 or this is 0. So if I write that down, I can say that either x plus 6 equals 0 or x plus 4 equals 0. As long as one of these two things is 0, our answer is going to be 0. So in this bracket here, if x plus 6 equals 0, then x is going to be negative 6, because negative 6 plus 6 equals 0. Or x equals negative 4, because negative 4 plus 4 is also 0. So these are our two answers. We've got two solutions to this quadratic equation here. And just like with all equations, we can verify our answers by substituting our values back into our original equation. So when x equals negative 6, we're going to have negative 6 squared. So negative 6 squared plus 10 times negative 6, 10 times negative 6, and then plus 24. Let's work that out. Negative 6 squared, well, that gives us 36. And then if we're adding on 10 times negative 6, well, 10 times negative 6 is negative 60. So it's going to be minus 60 and then plus 24. 30 subtract 60, well, that is negative 24. And then if we're adding on 24, well, that just gives us 0, which is what we're after here. So we know that that is correct. X equals negative 6. And likewise, if I substitute negative 4 back into our equation, we're going to have negative 4 squared plus 10 times negative 4 plus 24. Negative 4 squared is 16. And then 10 times negative 4 is negative 40. So minus 40 plus 24. 16 subtract 40 is negative 24. Plus 24, and obviously that also equals 0. So that one is correct as well. And usually with quadratic equations we will have two solutions, but that's not always the case, but generally we'll have two solutions when we're solving quadratic equations. Okay, so let's do one more example. So this time we're going to solve x squared minus x minus 30 equals 0. So our first step, remember, is to factorize. So we need to find two numbers that have a sum of negative 1, there's just a 1 in front of that x, although we don't see it, and two numbers that have a product of negative 30. So what two numbers are they? Well, they're going to be 6 and 5, and one of them has to be negative. So because the sum is negative, then the bigger number is going to be negative. So our numbers are going to be negative 6, let's just write this up here, negative 6 and 5. Negative 6 times 5 is negative 30, and negative 6 plus 5 is negative 1. So we can factorize this quadratic as x minus 6 in one bracket, and then x plus 5 in our other bracket, Obviously that equals 0. And again, using our 0 product rule, we know that one of these quantities has to be 0 because they're being multiplied together. So either x minus 6 equals 0. If that is 0, it doesn't matter what this is, we're going to get 0. Or x plus 5 equals 0. So we've got two linear equations here. Now we can just solve those equations. So add 6 to both sides. We're left with x equals 6. Or if we subtract 5 from both sides on this equation, we'll be left with x equals negative 5. So these are our two solutions. Okay, so now it's your turn. Pause the video and have a go at trying to solve these 5 quadratic equations. Okay, so I'm assuming you've paused the video and had a go at these. So let's go through these together. So first of all, we need to factorize. So two numbers that add together to get 12 and multiply together to get 27. Well, those two numbers are 3 and 9. So we can factorize this as x plus 3 and x plus 9 in our brackets, and then that equals 0. So we can set up two equations, either x plus 3 equals 0, so x plus 3 equals 0, or x plus 9 equals 0. So our solutions are going to be x equals negative 3, that's one solution, or x equals negative 9, and that's our other solution. Question number 2, x squared plus 2x minus 15 equals 0. So we need to factorize two numbers that have a sum of 2 and a product of negative 15. Well, those two numbers are going to be positive 5 and negative 3. So we can factorize this as x plus 5, x minus 3 equals 0. So we can set up two equations again, either x plus 5 equals 0 or x minus 3 equals 0. So our solutions are just going to be x equals negative 5 or x equals positive 3. Question number 3, x squared minus 8x minus 20 equals 0. So two numbers that have a sum of negative 8 and a product of negative 20. Well, those two numbers are going to be negative 10 and positive 2. So we can factorize this as x minus 10, x plus 2, and that equals 0. So again, set up two equations, x minus 10 equals 0, or x plus 2 equals 0. So our solutions are just going to be x equals positive 10, or x equals negative 2. Question 4, x squared minus 9x plus 14 equals 0. So two numbers that have a sum of negative 9 and a product of positive 14. Well, those two numbers are going to be negative 7 and negative 2. Remember, two negatives multiplied together give us a positive. So we can write x minus 7, x minus 2 equals 0. So either x minus 7 equals 0 or x minus 2 equals 0. So our solutions are just going to be x equals 7 or x equals 2. And the last one, question 5, x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 0. So two numbers that have a product, or a sum, should I say, of 6 and a product of 9. Well, those two numbers are 3 and 3. So we can write x plus 3, x plus 3 equals 0. Now I could set up two equations where x plus 3 equals 0 or x plus 3 equals 0. But that would be a bit silly because it's just the same thing. So we've just got one solution here. So x plus 3 equals 0. Therefore, x equals negative 3. And that is my solution. So here I've only got one solution. Most quadratics that we've solved will have two solutions like the ones we've done here. But sometimes we'll only have one solution. And sometimes we won't have any solutions at all. But that's for a future video. So thank you for watching this video on solving quadratic equations. And I'll see you soon.